And we are live. The 25th of November, and this is OSRA Scrum. Here is Craig, Nick, Robbie, Liv, hi Liv, and me. And let's start. Well, Craig, your turn.
I'm going to have a bash at this foreign key thing later. I've also got an outstanding task. I'm halfway through filters, but I'm wondering whether filters are worth finishing in their current incarnation with the active admin discussions that are going on at the moment. So not that we shouldn't have them, but whether it's worth doing all that work if we're not going to be using active admin for the client facing stuff.
Story you're working on in Jira. Yeah.
148, 146. Sorry.
It's foreign key constraint. Okay, what's your plan?
To do 146.
146. Okay. Leave. Turn on the music.
Hey!
Alex is back.
Alex.
Hi, Alex.
How would you?
We were worrying about you.
I was around. I just didn't make it on time because I was away from home and the patch internet connection.
Bandwidth.
I haven't noticed that you will be back somewhere. We really asked about you. Okay. Viv, are you with us?
I hope I didn't miss much.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I am. Just listening.
Oh.
It's been a little bit slow, Alex, so you haven't missed too much, but we're hoping to gain a little bit more momentum on the next sprint. So.
Oh, thank God.
Okay, Nick, any other?
Sure. I posted the story to the client. Brian's, it's OSRA 178, I think, is the story. It's about the filtering and sorting of orphans on the new sponsorship view. I haven't heard anything back from that. I also asked on Slack to confirm that all the stories that we used to have unresolved, they were accepted by the client during the client meeting. Is that correct? We had the add city to sponsor, add agent.
Yes, I've moved them to done. All stories which were moved to done was accepted. Yes.
Okay, so I'll mark them as resolved on Google Plus as well. I started working on OSRA 264 for uniqueness validation, and basically I ran into I thought I was done. I submitted a pull request. It was the work that I did was basically as simple as the 1 point estimation warranted. But then after I submitted a pull request, I actually tried to test this on my Heroku instance, and I realized that it breaks the importer. So we're running into the issue that we've started discussing about the importer, but never really arrived at the conclusion about the separation of concerns between all the different models and classes that are involved in the import process. So the importer currently validates that all the required fields are present, but after that I think, and that, for example, gender only includes male and female, but after that, that's where it stops. So it creates an orphan model that is technically valid, and then it tries to save it, but the uniqueness validation happens downstream of the importer. So the save fails and the whole process just breaks with an ugly error message. So there is a quick fix for it, which is just to stick in an extra couple of lines of code that validate the orphan right from within the importer. But I would, as I've argued before, I would argue that this isn't the concern of the importer anymore itself. This needs to be farmed out to pending orphan, perhaps, or another completely separate validator class. So, you know, we can go with a quick fix, and I suppose that's what it has to be for the time being, considering how close we are to production. But this is, again, yet another case of introducing technical debt into our code base.
Yeah, and I share your frustration. I mean, I've got that refactoring PR that's now probably as easy to scrap and start again from. It's sat there for so long, but we can't take that forward till we've got the current PR from Motism merged in.
Yeah. So, like I said, yeah, I'll try to do a pretty quick and dirty fix, and immediately create another chore, I suppose. Or, well, I mean, that chore should exist already that we want to. I suppose that falls into your hands then, Craig, with this whole refactor, the importer.
But yeah, well, I mean, it falls into our own hands because we all need to be happy with the architecture that we pick. But
yeah,
yeah, I share the frustration, I have to say.
So basically, what I'll end up doing is I'll pretty much just pass the buck to you, and since you're assigned to that refactoring, sure. I knowingly write bad code, and we'll be expecting you to fix it. So sorry about that. And I think that's it for me.
Alex?
I just had a look at the navigation menu display. There is a fix that I'll be able to do. Maybe I might issue a pull request tomorrow. But I think the main challenge was just trying to get a lot of T's that can show that all the other navigations are not actually working. Because I just had one place where I was able to see the navigation not being consistent. So my test is just based on just that one view.
Viv, can you talk or not? Because we're very interested in the result.
Yes, I can talk. I'm just listening.
Yes, but we want to hear from you about importer, because as I understand, you talked with Motasem about it.
With Motasem, I was not able to speak with him over the weekend. You know, I sent some IMs on Slack, and he actually responded back yesterday. But because I didn't actually make that meeting, and I didn't realize there was going to be a whole technical discussion after the client meeting. So I will be speaking with him this week. I'm just waiting for him to give me the go-ahead and sort of talk me through a little bit of that Excel spreadsheet concerning the story that I'm working on. I've already, pulled it from GitHub. Everything's all set up. I'm good to go. I've looked at the code, but I just need to talk through that file system with him just so I know moving forward what is the standard, because it looks like there are two different Excel spreadsheets and I need to use the most recent one. So I want to find out all the different types of data that's in there before I start. So that's my story. That's my story.
Cool.
Okay. Robbie, what can you say?
Yeah, hi. So I've been continuing looking through the code and everything, just becoming familiar with it. I feel I'm happy enough to take on a story if there's one that is fairly straightforward, that I could work maybe with someone else who would check that I was doing it right. I've also got just kind of like a few questions in my mind about various things. So that was the two things really. Seeing was there a story that I could take on, and secondly, I did have a number of questions.
While you're firing the questions away, do you have an account on? Oh, help me out! the bug tracker.
Jira.
Jira, thank you.
Correct.
Yeah, I can
Correct.
see that.
How can you put that?
I'm terrible with words. I'm sorry. You're going to have to get used to it. Have you got an account with Jira, Robbie?
I can see the stuff on Jira, but
But you don't have. It's like anonymous. You're on anonymous access.
Yeah, I suspect that's right.
If you send me a private message in Slack with an email address, I'll set you up account and get you an invite.
Right. Okay. Can I just check that I've got that's Craig? Is it?
Yeah, I'm Purity Control on Slack. If you send me a private message with your email address,
okay.
I'll get you a link set up, and then you can be on Jira.
I'll do that then. Thanks. Do you want me to just go over those questions that I have?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just check. Okay. One of the things was around the idea of a branch. Branch seems to be connected with an individual, but I couldn't really work out what a branch was. Is it? Someone explain that?
Nick.
Oh yeah, really? Okay. Branches are branches of the OSRA organization itself, so that they have several branches, 5 I believe, 4 in the Middle East and one in London.
And how is an individual associated with a branch?
It's not the individual that's so when a sponsor is entered into the database, the sponsor can come to OSRA by 2 different routes. One route is via OSRA directly, so this individual was, let's say, recruited, or maybe that's a loaded word to use, but the sponsor was signed up directly by a branch of OSRA.
Right. Yeah.
In that case, the sponsor's type is entered into the database as individual. OSRA also has a number of sister organizations which also bring sponsors in. And if a sponsor is signed up to OSRA via an organization, then their type is entered as organization and their affiliation is also organization.
Okay, so it's when an individual comes in as a sponsor, they're kind of come into a branch of the OSRA organization. That's the connection, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. The second question was, why can you not change the province when you're doing an edit partner?
This is basically because you're not supposed to. Partners are essentially unchanging entities. Once OSRA establishes a partnership with an organization within Syria, that partner is more or less permanent. Their details do not get changed.
Yeah, but what happens if someone puts in a new partner and then they put in the province wrongly at the start, and then they come in to change the province out?
Then they run to the developer team and ask them to hack into the back end and do it manually. There is another reason for this, and that is that many entities within the application are assigned OSRA ID numbers. In the case of partner, that ID number is based on the province of that partner.
Mm-hmm.
So once a partner is entered into the database, it is assigned an ID, and that ID propagates also to orphans that that partner brings in to OSRA. So basically, if halfway through you ended up changing the province of the partner, you end up either invalidating or at least messing up the format of a whole bunch of records.
I seem to remember you could actually change that OSRA number when you change the partner.
You can change the OSRA number?
Yeah, I think we could.
If you can do that, then please, 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 as quickly as you can, enter a bug on Jira. Because
Okay, I'll check that out then. Yeah.
OSRA ID numbers are never set manually for any of the models.
Right.
They're meant to be a friendly primary key that they use internally, effectively.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The next, I was just wondering, is this application designed to be used by the general public, like as a as a general website, or is it purely kind of like as an internal administration sort of thing for OSRA?
The latter at the moment.
Right.
Eventually, there may be subsequent work done that creates a front end for the public.
Okay. The next question was: are there any kind of non-functional requirements, like how many orphans, how many sponsors are kind of is the system geared up towards?
Well, we know some approximate numbers, or at least the numbers that the organization is operating with at the moment. They're of course subject to change in the future, but I think so far they've talked about approximately 500 sponsors and about 1,500 to maybe 2,000 orphans.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, what brought it to mind was I think there's a city field when you're adding new sponsors, and you kind of can pick a city that's already in the sponsors database table,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no index on the city field, so it's probably going to do a field table scan every time. But I mean, if you're talking fairly small numbers, it's not really going to matter that much.
Yeah, that's a valid point, I think. Craig, you are the database expert.
It is a valid point, but at that city that's not a long-term solution, is it, Nick?
Well,
this is just for phase 0.
Define long term. But it's not a permanent solution, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think if you've got 500 records, it's not a big issue, really. So, I think the final question was really around, it was more a general question about Rails, because I did notice there was kind of configuration data in a number of places in the application, like, for example, the male and female gender was in kind of like settings using a gem. Whereas there was provinces in the database, and there were other things like payment methods, which were kind of like constant arrays in the model. Is there a kind of like an agreed best mechanism for handling configuration data like this sort of stuff in Rails? Does that question make sense? Do you know what I'm getting at?
It does. No, we know. Yes, we do. Do you want to answer it now?
Sure, I can. So there are definitely best practices, and of course, since Rails favors conventional configuration, there are conventional practices. In the case of the things that you're referring to, so for example, payment plans, they're defined as a constant on the sponsor model, because the sponsor model is the only place where they're used. The gender array of male and female was extracted from a number of different models and put into the place where it currently is to be accessible from many different points.
Yeah.
But we don't like where it currently is located. It's it definitely should not be in the config settings place, because that is reserved for configuration of the application itself. It is not meant to be a repository for any kind of data that the models rely on. So one of the chores that we actually have for this sprint is cleaning up that structure.
Right, so taking the male and female out of that configuration setting sort of area, is that right?
Yeah.
And then what would you just have, like, like a constant array, as it were, the same way as you have payment plans in each of the areas where it's used, or what do you plan to do?
I'm not really sure what we plan to do. We can, I suppose we can, I don't know, haven't really thought about it.
Right.
One of the options would be to create some kind of a singleton class that holds this kind of data for us. Global variables are generally frowned upon, I suppose. So.
Yeah. I know some of the systems I used were at work, they had like one big table for all configuration. So they put all the configuration in one table, no matter what category it was. So you kind of updated all the configuration data in one form, as it were.
Yeah.
That seems to be another possibility as well.
Sure. Whenever somebody starts working on that, they'll have to make decisions and hopefully talk to the rest of us about it too.
Okay. Okay, that was about it. Thanks. As I say, if you get any fairly straightforward stories, I'm happy to take them on, provided I've got someone that could maybe go to help for any particular queries, and particularly if I'm making changes, I'd want to run them past somebody who's a bit more experienced in the application first.
Well, looking at the list of the stories that we have, there are definitely a couple that should be, I think, fairly straightforward that have not been taken yet. So this sprint, because we're so close to production, or at least we hope that we're very close to production, we have only taken on one new feature. The rest of the things that we have taken on for the sprint are chores, so things that will happen behind the scenes that don't need client's approval. And looking at the list of chores that we have, if you have access to Jira, or if you can see it on Pavel's screen maybe, there is a chore, OSRA 241. Validate that for an orphan, the number of sponsored minor siblings cannot be greater than the total number of minor siblings. So it's a simple validation on the model.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It will require a change to the factory to make sure that the objects that it generates are valid. But other than that, I think it should be fairly straightforward.
Yeah, I'll happily take that on. Yeah.
Okay.
And who's it best? Just because I'd really like to just kind of run everything past somebody. Who's it best to use in that? Is that yourself, Nick, or someone else?
Well, everybody. I think your best bet is our Slack channel. Yeah. So if you're having an issue that you would like kind of a more immediate response to, then Slack is probably the best thing. Just post a general message on the OSRA channel, and the first person that sees it will jump in. Otherwise, if you've made the modifications to the code and everything is working for you locally, tests are passing, feel free to submit a pull request.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and at that point you get everybody else's eyes on it, and you'll get feedback on it.
Yeah. So at the moment, what I've done as regards the Git stuff is I've forked the project into my own area on GitHub, and then cloned it into, my local machine here.
Yep.
Yeah. So, that's the right thing to do, is it? I've never used GitHub before in a kind of like a work environment.
So that's exactly the right thing to do. Then what you do when you pick your story, create a branch on your local machine.
Yep.
Work on it. When everything's passing, push that branch to your forked repo on GitHub.
Yes.
And then if you push that branch to GitHub and then go to GitHub reasonably quickly after that, there'll be a big button at the top saying merge, make a pull request.
Okay.
And if you miss that opportunity, there are other ways to make the pull request, but normally it's very straightforward and obvious.
Okay. Do I need to take down the latest copy of code from the GitHub main repository then? As it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So when you come to make a branch off your repository, you want that repository to be at the latest version. So what you probably want to do is add the OSRA, the main OSRA repo,
yes,
as a remote
Yeah.
in your Git account, and then just do a Git fetch. So if you call it
Yeah.
upstream, for example, do a
Yes.
Git fetch upstream, and then merge upstream into your upstream develop into your local version of develop,
Yeah.
and that'll give you the latest version of develop on your machine, and then you can do a branch off develop, do your work, and then push that up to your local Git repo. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's fine. Do
I
you
mean,
have
again, if you get to the stage where you're struggling with that a little bit, we can help you out.
Yeah. That's okay. Thanks a lot, Craig. Do you have any particular naming conventions for branches, or just whatever people think?
There are no particular conventions. Maybe
Okay.
just make sure that it's reasonably self-explanatory.
Okay.
I've posted a link in our chat to an article that might help you with pull requests.
In the OSRA chat?
No, it's
in the
right here.
chat in Google Hangouts.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Thanks, Nick. Yeah. Okay.
A quick question about a gem file, the gem capybara WebKit. I could not get it to resolve. I mean, all the other gems were fine. Is there some special configuration for that that's needed?
What machine are you on?
I'm on a Mac OS 10 Mountain Lion 10.8.
Didn't you have
And
to
yeah,
compile?
and I
I'm on
set up.
Linux. Sorry, so for me it was
Okay.
just a package install, but I think for Mac, Nick, that's a compile, isn't it?
Actually, the best bet, if you don't have Homebrew installed, this is.
I'm pretty sure I have Homebrew.
Okay.
Because I did try to install it, and it wouldn't install. All the other gems installed, that one would not install. And I'm just wondering if there was, if there's some special configuration, or if I must be on a Linux machine.
No, you definitely don't have to be on a Linux machine. I'm doing all my development on a Mac. I think what you need to do, if I recall correctly, is this command that I just entered into the chat, brew install Qt. Qt is the library that you need, or the capybara.
Or the capybara?
Yeah.
Okay.
Make several several pots of coffee.
No, everything else worked fine. That was the only one. Yeah.
It takes a little while to compile.
That's no problem. We'll do. Okay, we'll do. Also, another question. When I, once everything, I had it up and I stood up the site, the instance, I didn't really know how to use the site. You know what I mean? I didn't know how it worked functionally. And I was wondering if either this week, either Thursday or Friday this week, anytime, I could sit down and watch someone if you're working on it just to see how it works. Maybe if you're building some code, Nick, or Craig, or anyone that's really familiar with the system, just so I can see all the little pieces, because I had no idea how it worked. It looked like admin. Do you import Excel? I just didn't know how it worked.
The best bet might be right after a Scrum.
Okay, so do you want to do that? Do you want to say right after the Thursday Scrum? Is that good? Because I will have all the time. I just want to see how it works. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that should be reasonable.
Thank you.
Okay, well, any other questions? That's very crowded conversation. Okay, then let's call it a day. Thank you everyone, and see you tomorrow on our Scrum. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.